I walked up to the reception desk at the Grandview Country Club in my best suit, the one I'd bought special for this day. Timothy Anderson, I told the young lady checking names. She ran her finger down the list once, then twice. Her smile got uncomfortable real quick. I'm sorry, sir, but I don't see your name here. Check again, I said. I'm the father of the groom. That's when I saw Ryan walking over in his fancy tuxedo. And I knew. The look on his face wasn't surprise. It was annoyance, like I was some unwanted salesman who'd shown up at his door. Dad, what are you doing here? I came to my son's wedding, I said. There must be some mistake with the list. He looked me dead in the eye with a coldness I'd never seen before. There's no mistake, Dad. I told you this was family only. I am your family. I'm your father. Ryan rolled his eyes like I was some old fool. Did you really think you'd be invited after everything? That's when it hit me. My name is Timothy, Anderson. I'm 64 years old, a Vietnam veteran who built a successful business from nothing, and I'd just been told by my own son that I wasn't welcome at his wedding. I smiled at him. Calm as you please. I understand perfectly, son. Then I walked away. But as I headed for the exit, I pulled out my phone and called my old Army buddy, Peterson. George, I said, remember what we talked about? Time to make some moves. Let me back up and tell you how it got to this point. 32 years ago, I adopted Ryan when he was 3. His mother, Sarah, my first wife, died in a car wreck, and that little boy needed someone. I was working as a mechanic then, barely making ends meet, but I took him in and raised him like my own. Worked double shifts, overtime, whatever it took, sent him to trade school, helped him get his electrical contractor license. Everything was fine until Jessica came along 10 years back. She was a bank teller, seemed nice enough at first. I was 54, lonely, figured it was time to find some companionship. But Jessica had ideas about moving up in the world, as she put it. Tim, you really need to stop telling those boring car repair stories at dinner, she'd say with that fake smile. People want to hear about success, not grease and oil. Or she'd look at my work clothes and shake her head. Couldn't you dress a little nicer when we go out? People judge you by appearance. Worst part was, Ryan started agreeing with her. My own son, who I'd busted my back for, started treating me like I was some embarrassment. Dad, maybe Jessica has a point. You could try to, I don't know, fit in better. Fit in better. After 32 years of sacrifice. What they didn't know was that I hadn't been just fixing cars all these years. I'd been building something. Started with 1 auto shop, then 2, then 3. Bought real estate when it was cheap back in the 80s. Invested every spare dollar I made. My military pension helped, sure, but I'd turned that into something bigger, through smart moves and hard work. But I kept living simple. Same modest house, same work clothes, same truck. I wanted Ryan to respect me for who I was, not what I had. Biggest mistake I ever made. The wedding planning was when things got really bad. Jessica took over everything, and suddenly I wasn't included in any decisions. When I'd ask about details, she'd give me the runaround. We're still figuring things out, Tim. We'll let you know. They never let me know anything. 3 days before the wedding, I called Ryan to ask what time I should be there. Long silence on the phone. Dad, he finally said, Jessica and I decided to keep it small, just close family. I am close family. I'm your father. Yeah, but Jessica thinks, well, that you don't really fit the image we're going for. Image. I didn't fit their image. The man who'd sacrificed everything for him didn't fit their country club image. That should have been my warning, but I went anyway. Thought maybe seeing me there would remind him of everything we'd been through together. All those nights I stayed up with him when he was sick as a kid. All the baseball games, the homework help, the encouragement when things got tough. But when Ryan looked at me standing there at that reception desk, all I saw was contempt. Like I was nothing. Like 32 years meant nothing. After I left the wedding, I drove straight home and started making calls. First call was to Peterson, my old squad leader from Vietnam. He runs Henderson Construction now, biggest contractor in 3 counties. George, you still looking for a good electrical contractor for that downtown project? Always am, Tim. You got someone in mind? Yeah, but not who you think? Second call was to my lawyer, Scott. Time to move on that business plan we discussed. Third call was to Mickey O'Brien from Local 481. We'd worked together back in the day, and now he runs the electricians' union. Mickey, remember you said you owed me a favor? See, what Ryan and Jessica didn't understand was that while they were worrying about images and impressions, I'd been building real relationships. 40 years in this town, 40 years of keeping my word, helping people out when they needed it, being straight with everybody. That network was about to become their worst nightmare. Within a week, the calls started coming in. Ryan phoned me first, not to apologize, but to complain. Dad, what's going on? Henderson Construction just canceled our contract for the downtown office building. That was our biggest job this year. Huh, I said, stirring my coffee. That's rough. Market's competitive these days. They said they found someone more qualified, but we've been working with them for 3 years. Maybe they wanted fresh blood. You know how it is in business. Dad, I need you to call your friend Peterson and straighten this out. You know him from the service, right? There it was. Now that he needed something, suddenly my old war buddy connections mattered. Sorry, son, but you made it clear at your wedding that you don't need your old man anymore. Figure I should respect that. The silence stretched long enough to drive a truck through. Dad, that was different. This is business. Everything's business, Ryan, including respect. I hung up and waited. Took exactly 37 minutes for Jessica to call, screaming her head off. You vindictive old man! How dare you sabotage Ryan's business? Jessica, I haven't done anything to Ryan's business. I've just stopped doing things for it. What's that supposed to mean? Means he's a big boy now. Time he stood on his own 2 feet. The real beauty of my plan wasn't what I was doing to Ryan. It was what I was doing for someone else entirely. See, Peterson had mentioned he needed a reliable electrical contractor for his projects. Someone skilled, honest, with good references. Someone who wasn't Ryan. That's where Danny Kowalski came in. Danny was 28, fresh, out of his apprenticeship, hungry to make his mark. I'd met him at Mickey's Union Hall. Good kid, reminded me of myself at that age. All he needed was a chance. Mr. Anderson, Danny said when I called him to my shop. Mickey said you wanted to see me? That's right. You looking for steady work? Yes, sir. Been trying to get my own outfit going, but it's tough breaking in. What if I told you I could get you a meeting with the biggest general contractor in the county? Danny's eyes lit up. I'd say, what's the catch? I liked that. Smart kid. No catch. You do good work, show up on time, treat people right, the jobs will come. Simple as that. Why me, though? You don't even know me. I know Mickey vouches for you. That's enough for me. Plus, this town needs contractors who understand that a handshake still means something. 3 days later, Danny was sitting in Peterson's office. 2 days after that, he had the downtown job that used to be Ryan's. But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. My next call was to Tom Bradley at Bradley Supply. Tom and I went way back. I'd helped him out during the 2008 recession when his credit was shot and he couldn't get materials. Tim, how you been, buddy? Good, Tom. Listen, I got a favor to ask. You know my son Ryan's electrical business? Sure do. We've been supplying him for years. Well, his account's been running a little behind lately. Might want to put him on cash-only terms for a while. Oh? I hadn't noticed any problems. Trust me on this one, Tom. Cash only. At least until he gets caught up. Meanwhile, I was setting Danny up for success. Called every supplier I knew, put in good words, made sure he got the best prices and fastest delivery. When you've been in business 40 years like I have, those relationships matter. The funny thing was, I'd been doing the same thing for Ryan all these years without him knowing. Making calls, smoothing the way, ensuring he got the best deals. He thought it was just his natural business sense. Kid never understood that success isn't just about what you know. It's about who you know and how they feel about you. Ryan found out about the cash-only situation when his next material order got rejected. Dad, Bradley Supply is demanding cash up front. They're saying our credit's no good. That's strange. Maybe someone spread some bad information about your business. What kind of bad information? Oh, you know how it is in small towns. People talk. Word gets around that maybe a contractor doesn't honor his commitments. What are you talking about? I've never missed a payment to Bradley's. I'm not talking about payments, son. I'm talking about commitments, like the commitment to include your father in the most important day of your life. Another long silence. Then he exploded. Are you seriously sabotaging my business because of a wedding invitation? I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm just no longer helping. Turns out, there's a big difference. What do you mean you're no longer helping? Ryan, for the last 10 years, I've been making calls for you. Recommendations, references, putting in good words. When suppliers got tight on credit, I vouched for you. When contractors needed someone reliable, I suggested you. I've been your unpaid marketing department. The silence this time was different. I could hear the gears turning. But I built this business myself. You worked the jobs yourself. I'll give you that. But you didn't build the relationships. You didn't earn the trust. You didn't create the network that brought you those jobs. You never told me. I shouldn't have had to tell you. A son should know what his father does for him. While Ryan was dealing with supply problems and lost contracts, Danny was making a name for himself. Henderson Construction was so impressed with his work on the downtown project that they offered him 3 more jobs. Word spread fast in the trades. There was a new electrical contractor in town, and he was solid. I'd stop by Danny's job sometimes, just to check how things were going. Kid was doing everything right. Showed up early, cleaned up after himself, treated the other trades with respect. The kind of contractor I'd want to work with. Mr. Anderson, Danny said one day when I visited the job site, I want you to know how much this opportunity means to me. You earned it, son, every bit of it. Son. Funny how natural that word came when I was talking to Danny. With Ryan, it was getting harder to remember why I'd ever used it at all. The breaking point came 2 months later at the annual Contractors Association Awards dinner. I'd been going to this thing for 15 years, back when I was more active in the business. This year, I had special reason to attend. Danny Kowalski was being honored as Emerging Contractor of the Year. I walked into the ballroom at the Marriott wearing my good suit, the same one I'd worn to that wedding where I wasn't welcome. Difference was, here people were glad to see me. Tim Anderson, you old son of a gun? That was Bill Murphy from Murphy Plumbing, slapping me on the back. Heard you've been mentoring young Kowalski. Good for you. Kid's got what it takes, I said. Just needed someone to give him a shot. Well, Peterson can't stop talking about him. Says he's the best electrical contractor he's worked with in years. I spotted Danny across the room, looking sharp in a rented tuxedo, talking with some of the industry big shots. Seeing him there, confident and respected, reminded me of myself at that age. Except Danny had something I never did. Someone in his corner who believed in him. That's when I saw Ryan and Jessica walk in. They looked desperate. Ryan's shirt was wrinkled, his tie crooked. Jessica was wearing a dress that had seen better days. The contrast with the rest of the room was stark. These people dressed for success because they'd earned it. Ryan spotted me first. His face went through about 6 different expressions before settling on something between anger and pleading. Dad, he said, walking over with Jessica trailing behind. We need to talk. Evening, Ryan. Jessica? I nodded to them both. Surprised to see you here. The association still has me on their mailing list, Ryan said. Look, Dad, I know you're angry about the wedding, but this has gone far enough. My business is falling apart. That's unfortunate. Competition's tough in this industry. Jessica stepped forward, her voice sharp. Stop playing games, Tim. We know you're behind this. We know you've been sabotaging Ryan's contracts. Jessica, I haven't sabotaged anything. I've just stopped sabotaging the competition. What's that supposed to mean? Ryan asked. Before I could answer, the MC called everyone to their seats. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your places for dinner." I was seated at the head table, right next to Peterson. Ryan and Jessica ended up in the back corner at one of the cheap seats. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. During dinner, Peterson leaned over. "Tim, I gotta ask, that boy of yours, Ryan, what happened there? His work started going downhill fast about 2 months ago." "Maybe he got comfortable. Sometimes when people think success is guaranteed, they stop trying as hard." "Well, I'm glad you steered us toward Kowalski. That kid's a professional." After the main course, the awards ceremony began. I watched Danny walk up to receive his trophy, shaking hands with all the industry leaders. His acceptance speech was perfect, humble, grateful, professional. "I want to thank everyone who believed in me," Danny said into the microphone, "especially Tim Anderson, who taught me that success isn't just about what you know, but how you treat people along the way." The applause was genuine and warm. These were people who understood the value of mentorship, of giving someone a chance to prove themselves. When Danny returned to his seat, the MC continued with the evening's program. "Before we conclude, we have a special recognition tonight. The board has voted to honor someone who's been a pillar of our community for over 40 years. Please join me in recognizing Tim Anderson for his lifetime contributions to our industry." I wasn't expecting that. As I walked to the podium, I could feel Ryan's eyes on me. This was probably the first time he'd seen me in a room where I was the respected one, where people looked up to me. "Thank you," I said into the microphone. "When I started in this business, an old-timer told me something I've never forgotten. He said, 'Your reputation is built one job at a time, one relationship at a time, one kept promise at a time.' That served me well for 4 decades. I looked out at the audience, my eyes finding Ryan in the back corner. "I've been blessed to work with honest people, reliable people, people who understand that your word is your bond. I've also learned that success isn't something you inherit or something you're entitled to. It's something you earn every single day." The applause was strong. When I returned to my seat, people kept coming over to shake my hand, to tell me stories about jobs we'd worked together, favors I'd done that I'd forgotten about. That's when I noticed Ryan and Jessica arguing at their table. Their voices were getting louder, and people were starting to stare. "Told me he was just a mechanic," Jessica's voice carried across the room. "You said he was nobody important." "Keep your voice down," Ryan hissed, but Jessica was past caring. "I married you thinking I was moving up in the world. Your father owns half the contractors in this room. He doesn't own anybody. He just knows them. Same thing. And now we're nobodies because you had to embarrass him at our wedding." The fight continued until security quietly asked them to leave. As they walked out, Ryan turned, back to look at me one more time. The expression on his face was something I'd never seen before. Complete understanding of what he'd lost. After they left, Peterson shook his head. "That boy never understood what he had, did he?" "No," I said. "He never did." The evening continued, but the energy had shifted. People were talking about Ryan's outburst, about Jessica's comments, about how some people just don't appreciate what they've got until it's gone. Danny came over as the evening wound down. "Mr. Anderson, I want you to know something. Whatever happened between you and your son, I'm grateful for it. You've given me a chance I never would have had otherwise. Danny, you earned everything you got tonight. I just made a phone call. It was more than that, and we both know it. You taught me what it means to be a professional, to be someone people can count on." Looking at Danny, I realized something. I'd found the son I'd always wanted to have, not through blood or adoption, but through respect and shared values. Sometimes family isn't about who raised you. Sometimes it's about who believes in you when it matters most. The weeks following the awards dinner changed everything. Word spread fast in our small contractor community about what had happened. Ryan's business, what was left of it, completely dried up. Nobody wanted to work with someone who'd publicly disrespected a man like me. Jessica filed for divorce within a month. Turned out she'd married Ryan thinking she was getting a successful contractor with a bright future. When she realized he'd been riding on my reputation all along, she was gone faster than paint on a hot radiator. Ryan tried calling me dozens of times, left messages, sent letters, even showed up at my shop once. I didn't answer the calls or read the letters. When he came to the shop, I told him the same thing I'd tell any stranger. "We're closed. Come back during business hours." "Dad, please, I know I messed up, I know. I was wrong about the wedding." "Ryan, you weren't wrong about the wedding. You made a choice about the wedding. Now you get to live with that choice." "But I'm losing everything. My business is gone, Jessica left me, I can't get work anywhere in town." "That's what happens when you burn bridges, son. Takes years to build a reputation, minutes to destroy it." "What do I have to do to fix this?" I looked at him standing there in my doorway, desperate and broken. For just a second, I saw the 3-year-old boy I'd taken in all those years ago. But then I remembered his face at that wedding, the contempt in his voice, and the moment passed. "Nothing," I said. "There's nothing you can do to fix this. Some things, once broken, stay broken." "You can't mean that. I'm your son." "No, Ryan. A son stands by his father. A son shows respect. A son doesn't throw away 32 years over what his wife thinks looks good. You're not my son anymore. You're just someone I used to know." He tried to argue, tried to plead, but I closed the door and went back to work. I had an engine to rebuild, and that was something I could actually fix. 6 months later, I made a decision that surprised even me. I sold my auto shops to Danny Kowalski. "Mr. Anderson, I can't afford to buy you out," Danny protested when I offered them to him. "Who said anything about buying? Consider it payment for all the lessons you're going to teach other young contractors about doing business the right way." "I don't understand." "Danny, I'm 64 years old. I've got more money than I can spend, and nobody to leave it to. These shops need someone who understands what they represent. Honest work, fair dealing, keeping your word. That's you." The look on his face reminded me why I'd gotten into this business in the first place. Not for the money, though that came. Not for the recognition, though that came too. For the satisfaction of building something solid, something that would last. I moved to a retirement community outside Phoenix, Arizona. Dry heat's good for old bones, and there's a lot of Vietnam vets down there. Men who understand honor, duty, keeping your commitments. Men who know the difference between earning respect and expecting it. Danny sends me pictures from the shops every month. Business is booming. He's hired 3 new mechanics, all young guys who remind me of myself at that age. Hungry, willing to learn, appreciative of the chance. He also tells me about Ryan. Word is he moved to Florida, got a job working for someone else as a regular electrician. No more big contractor dreams, no more fancy lifestyle. Just honest work for honest pay, which is probably the best thing that could have happened to him. Sometimes I wonder if I was too hard on him. Then I remember that awards dinner, the way he looked at me like I was nothing. And I know I did the right thing. A man has to have standards. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Last month, I got a letter from Ryan. First communication in over a year. He wrote about his new life, his job, how he was learning to appreciate the simple things, how he understood now what I'd been trying to teach him all those years. "I know you probably won't forgive me," he wrote, "but I want you to know that I finally get it. Respect isn't something you're owed. It's something you earn. And I never earned yours. I just expected it." I read that letter 3 times, then put it in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I'll answer it, maybe not. Some lessons come too late to matter. What I've learned is this. Being a father doesn't mean accepting disrespect. It doesn't mean swallowing your pride for the sake of family peace. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. I think about other fathers out there, men my age who are dealing with ungrateful adult children, who are being taken for granted by people they sacrificed everything for. My advice to them is simple. Know your worth. Don't let anyone, not even family, treat you like you don't matter. Your value isn't determined by what you can do for people. It's determined by who you are, what you've built, what you stand for. If your own children can't see that, then they don't deserve the privilege of being in your life. These days, I spend my mornings at the VFW with other vets, sharing coffee and stories. Afternoons, I help out at the community workshop, teaching young guys basic automotive skills. Evenings, I sit on my porch and watch the Arizona sunset, content in the knowledge that I lived by my principles. Danny called yesterday to tell me he's engaged to a nice girl from town, a teacher who treats him with respect and admiration. We're thinking about kids, Mr. Anderson. When that time comes, I hope I can be half the father to them that you were to me. That's when I knew I'd done something right. Not with Ryan, maybe, but with Danny. Sometimes being a father isn't about the children you raise. Sometimes it's about the young people you influence, the examples you set, the standards you maintain. I may have lost a son, but I gained something more valuable: my self-respect. And at 64, that's worth more than all the family dinners in the world. A man's legacy isn't measured by how much his children take from him, but by how much they learn from him. And sometimes the greatest lesson is teaching them what happens when respect runs out. I spent 32 years teaching Ryan how to make a living, but I failed to teach him how to live with honor. That's a mistake I won't make twice, and a lesson every father should remember before it's too late.